Hi, my name is Nicola and I'm one of the founding directors of an organisation called Flourish Together. We support people developing all kinds of social and ethical businesses and organisations, and we're really pleased to be asked to help deliver some sessions with Sector 3 as part of their Ideas and Inspiration business development sessions for people thinking starting social enterprises. This is part of our first webinar series and the second session as part of this range, where we're hoping to help people look a bit more at their solutions to social challenges. So we've spent some time thinking about who develops social ventures and why in part 1. And now we're really going to help you look at how you develop and strengthen your ideas. So we talked before in the last session about different case studies and different examples of different kinds of social enterprises. And we explained that social enterprises work across all sorts of sectors. So they might work in health and well-being, they might work in tackling social justice challenges, they might work in education, they might be developing products, they might be developing services. There's all sorts of very varied organisations out there. And what we thought we'd do with this session is just help you think about the quality of the ideas that you develop. We'll all have lots of ideas for how we might want to change the world for the better, or maybe you're running a social business and you've got some ideas for new services, and it's choosing the best idea or knowing what's going to work. And the best way to find that out is to really map it out, do some research and test your thinking. And this tool called the problem tree is a way of helping you to do that. So, excuse me, it looks like child's play, but it can actually really help. And I'm going to walk you through this example so that you can have a look at carrying out this yourself. So, as I said, there are people developing all sorts of solutions to social issues. Social enterprises are all about finding enterprising solutions to social issues and finding sustainable ways to make a difference, make change, and help various people earn a living at the same time. And there are many kinds out there that the entrepreneur behind them has been thinking things through. They're either an expert with lived experience who's perhaps wants to have a crack at doing a better job of it. There might be somebody who's had a career working in certain sectors and is almost like a serial social entrepreneur coming up with ideas and solutions, maybe even entrepreneurs within the public sector, private sector, and within larger organisations. And this tool can be used across the board. So when you're trying to think through ideas and what you're best to do and what's going to make the best difference, this tool helps you walk through every facet of what's going on, and starting with the core problem. So thinking about what is the issue or the idea, what is the core problem that your idea seeks to address. Basically, that's where your starting point is, and then taking a step back from that and thinking through all of the root causes will really help you think about where you're best to tackle, and what you know how best to tackle. We'll see a work example in a moment. Once you've worked out what the core problem is that you're trying to address and put a name on it, or try to, once you've worked out the root causes, you can then start to think about, what are the effects that these root causes and this, this problem, what are the effects, immediate and then wider detailed and societal effects that happen, as a result of this problem. And what you'll find is there are different parts of the tree that you either were or weren't aware of, or that it's broadened your thinking around actually what products, services or solutions might be necessary in order to tackle this problem. And some you'll be able to address and think about, and some won't be your area. But mapping them out there helps you see how certain things are all interconnected. And also it might help you work out who you're best to collaborate with, who you could partner with to make the difference all the more. Just because you can't tackle certain parts of the tree doesn't mean other people and other agencies can't. And you might find, when you think about it, that whatever you're trying to do, there could be heaps of people already doing that. You know, your competition or other people in the wider world might be doing a great job of this already. So why would you duplicate what exists, or why would you muscle in on stuff where there's already loads going on, when you might actually just twist or find a better niche for what you're doing that actually there's a real market for? So there's lots of reasons for doing this exercise, so that it helps you find the best solutions, consider how you might work with other people, and help the community all the more where gaps might be existing in current provisions. So once you've doodled out your tree, and you'll see when I do one in a moment, you then can start to think about which aspects of these root causes are you most passionate about addressing. You know, what really fires you up to really know that that's the bit that you want to work on, that's the bit that you've got the skills to work on, and the knowledge and experience to work on, or that you want to learn and develop in that area. It's also having a think about which bits are going to have the most impact. Just because you want to set up this workshop or this activity or create this new resource, is it really going to have the best impact, the most impact? Is it going to be as useful as it needs to be? And so just having a think about, you know, which types of ideas and solutions are going to have maximum impact for what you're trying to do. You're going to put this time and this effort into doing this, you might as well see it have the most impact it can have. And it also helps you to realize you can't be all things to all people, and you may or may not know quite how you're going to develop what it is you're trying to do. And so thinking about what skills and support you're going to need is another thing that this tool can help you to think through. So let's have a look at an example, and then we can leave you to have a go at your own. So we've just given a quick example here, really, that starts to look at, you know, this is why Flourish exists. We've kind of given this quick, easy example. So basically, you know, we exist. One of the reasons we exist is because, you know, there's an underemployment of women. One of the problems that we've seen is an underemployment of women, and we know, you know, one of the effects of that is that then results in a lack of economic independence and contribution from women in society, or, you know, in the community. So if we've got that in our line of sight, if we know, you know, there's currently, you know, an underemployment of women, and it's having this main effect of lack of economic independence for them and a lack of contribution into the wider world, we'll just take a step back for a moment and think about, why does that happen and how does that come about? We might find, you know, there's a lack of skills and confidence in some women, obviously not all, but some women lack skills and confidence for various reasons. And again, you could peel back the layers and say, well, why is that? To see if you want to pinpoint down tackling certain aspects of that. There might be language barriers. You know, we have high proportions of people in our communities for whom English isn't their second language. They could be really, you know, effective and have great jobs if they could overcome these language barriers. So that's something else that we've noticed, and we've seen that, you know, we could work in partnership with others to do something about. Often we'll find that women are not fully able to prioritize themselves, often due to care commitments, care of, you know, elderly relatives, care of children, care of just the general family, household. And so putting themselves first and thinking about their own needs is often not even on their radar. Or if it is, they take one step forward and 2 steps back, because there's all this other stuff that needs doing around the edges of something that they might want to do. Lots of the women in our network might have had physical and mental health setbacks, and again, you know, that creates an underemployment. You know, there's certain you know, difficulties that people might face within their own physical and mental health, recovery times, or again, that impacts on confidence, people trusting themselves to be able to, you know, do things and get back into work. So we've noticed that is a factor, it's a root cause. On a flip side, out of our hands, out of certain women's hands, you know, there are inflexible workspaces and inflexible sectors. So whether it's to do with accessibility, how far a commute might be, certain sectors, I won't name any names, but I know for sure there are certain sectors out there where just the hours of working, or the certain demands of the company, or the culture of an organisation, makes it quite complicated and quite difficult for women to work there, particularly after they've had children, and that shouldn't be the case. And so there's this whole world of how, you know, how might somebody tackle inflexible workspace and sectors, which is a completely different solution to tackling skills and confidence or language or certain other things. There's another side to the coin where in this country, you know, we've talked about this within our own organisation, but, you know, we do feel that homemaking is undervalued as a skill, as something that has to happen. We all live in somewhere, and somebody's got to take care of that, whether it's a large family, small family, however it is. Homemaking is undervalued, and that again factors into aspects of this. There might be a different route to creating solutions. And then, you know, the cost and accessibility of childcare, cost and accessibility of, you know, training, retraining, finding work, getting to work. These are all costs that women may not have. You know, if they've been out of work sometime as well, they're not going to have the cash or the means to get the training, get to that job interview and whatever. There are all sorts of initiatives out there that try and tackle this, but it's still an ongoing problem, and lots of people don't know where to start. And then in addition to that, if you've been out of work for some time, there is almost another layer of barriers to returning to work that link into some of what we've got here, but also, you know, just is that inertia of being out of the habit of being in work, or it not being seen as a viable route for people. So particularly if they're sort of trapped almost in a benefit system. So root causes, you might think of your own here, and clearly, you know, I'm showing you this example so that you can sit down, doodle out your own tree and think, right, you know, I'm tackling, you know, knife crime, you know, the knife crime is a problem, or, you know, drug rehabilitation, drug and alcohol rehabilitation, or, you know, people are stressed, people are anxious, people are affected by loss and bereavement. Whatever your core problem is that you're tackling, you will then be able to think about, so why is that? How does that come about? What are the root causes for this? And then we'll then start looking into, you know, and what happens as a result. So in this context, you know, underemployment of women is creating a lack of economic independence and contribution of women. So we, you know, in addition to the root causes as to how this comes to be, there's a whole set of different effects, and local, national, societal, global, you know, that happen because of this particular problem. Just like with yours, you'll have these things. So when we were thinking about what are the effects, we've got the fact that, you know, women can feel frustrated, and this perpetuates a lack of confidence, lower self-esteem and personal vision. Women remain in underpaid roles, or those that don't fully enable their potential, and because of these root causes, you know, they just kind of have to stay where they are, do what they do, earn what they can, and they don't always get the opportunity to further their development, further their careers, or at a certain point in their life, and not just for children, but, you know, when people have children, when people might have a health setback, when people hit menopause, or whatever it might be, that there could be, not in every case, but there could be a kind of stepping back, you know, and women not fulfilling their true potential. So, you know, we look at some other aspects of this, and so what happens as a result of this, you know, the world misses out, you know, from less women influencing policy, being in leadership roles, designing services, medicines, products, transport. Everything is seen through you know, certain male lens, you know, and there are some, you know, clearly women in the workplace, but as a proportion, as a percentage, there are just less women in certain, you know, roles in certain sectors, or not able to get to certain meetings because of these kinds of root causes and challenges. And this then has a wider knock-on effect. You know, according to global sources, the world misses out from billions of pounds of potential economic activity, currently 160 trillion, due to the lack of gender parity in the workplace. So, there's, as much as there's immediate effects, there's this bigger picture effect as well. And in and around all of this, less women have got financial independence, so the less women own their own assets and have, freedom of choice and security. And I'm not just talking about in, the developing world. This is in the UK as well. Through all of these challenges and these issues, we end up perpetuating poverty, hardship, people getting trapped in certain benefit systems, and we can often perpetuate inflexible, inaccessible places of study or work environments. So this just shows, and you might think, gosh, why go to the nth degree to kind of really peel back the layers of the onion on this? But if you're trying to set up a business or come up with solutions to tackle a particular problem, doing this gives you a few things. It gives you the opportunity to really test where does your skills and knowledge lie, in what you're doing. You can think you're the expert or the expert by experience, or your stuff, but actually there's always more to learn. And usually problems are so complex that you will only be ever working on a particular part of solving the problem or putting a particular piece in the jigsaw. And being aware of your place in the jigsaw helps you partner with other people, as I say, so that everybody's moving forward in the right direction to tackle whatever the core problems and the main effects are. It also might give you a way of thinking, well, this is our core area of business, this is our core area of focus for the first year to 3 to 5 years. But then from then on, maybe we can start looking at some other aspects. Or maybe once we've looked at how we tackle this, that, and the other, we can then start to look at a different side of the problem tree. But you might come to realize, you can chip away on one aspect, build skills and confidence, overcome language barriers, do this, that, and the other. But unless, so you could set up services and projects and activities, but you might find, as social enterprises often do, you have to have a kind of policy aspect. You have to have kind of influencing aspect to what you're doing, because you can feel like you're kind of, on a treadmill, working away in a paper bag over here, making loads of difference and impact. But actually, if you could just influence certain people, or if you could just shift thinking in a particular way, what you're doing over here would suddenly, the impact would open up and be much more useful and benefit more people. So sometimes a 2 or 3 pronged attack to creating social change can make that shift happen more quickly. And not everyone's up for that, but it's something to think about. If you're really trying to make a change and make a difference, you can't do it on your own. So how are you going to bring people in and around you to create this change and to operationally and practically help you? But also, you're just part of the solution, and working collaboratively and effectively and smart with all these other bits of the tree will then help you feel as though you're creating more impact more quickly and in a more joined up way. So that's the problem tree tool. I hope you'll find it useful. It's good to think about as a whole organization and think, right, what's the core challenge? So let's just go back. What's the core problem that we're seeking to address? And you might have that clear in your mind, or there might be 2 or 3. So you might need to do 2 or 3 problem trees. And once you've done these, it will help clarify and give you some focus around, which aspects you're most passionate about, where you're going to have the most impact, and where you've got the most skills, or what additional skills and additional people you might need to bring around you to work on the part of the problems that you're trying to solve. So before we wrap up from this session, I'm just going to move this on a little phase. So there's another tool here for helping sort of refine challenges and refine problems and come up with good solutions and put them into action. So there's something called design thinking, human-centered design or social innovation. They have lots of terms for these things, but ultimately it's like a common sense approach to getting things done. It takes time, it takes a little bit of reiteration and reflection, but doing this and following these sorts of steps can really help you get going. It can be very hard, at the start of a project or of a business, or when you want to test something out but you're just not quite sure where to start yet. The sooner you start and have a go, the better, rather than getting bogged down in business plans or getting bogged down in funding or what's your branding going to look like. All of that can come. You really need to know, is your idea a good one? Who wants it? Does it work? And how have you got to refine it to make it better? That's really where these things start from. And so this little loop, here shows you or gives you a sense of how to get going. And it might even take, my background is in product and furniture design for manufacture. And I remember my A-level design and this was all part of it. It might take you back to your days of CDT doing this, craft design technology or whatever it's called these days. And it's really about understanding a problem to meet a need and testing something out in order to see if it works and evaluating it all. And it's a kind of cyclical thing. So just like we did a minute ago, this empathize, what's the problem? Can you define the problem that you're trying to solve? Whose problem is it? What is it? You could use the problem tree to really look at, what is the problem? Get the root causes, look at the effects, and there we go. You've made your first step. Then it's all about thinking, why is this important? Doing further research to work out why it's important. And this is that first step to engaging with your community, to talking about who needs this stuff and giving them, starting to communicate your ideas and see who's on board and see what help you to shape what this thing needs to look like, how you need to describe it in order to get people involved. And so you can research, you can observe and really create your point of view on where you stand in the marketplace on this. You're then thinking with a conversation that you might have. So you'll have some ideas when you've done your problem tree, and you've probably already got ideas now, but putting them into that context will help you see where you sit. And then thinking about this, how do we solve it? Are these the best ideas? Are these the most appropriate? Have you got the skills to deliver them? And all the ideas that you might have to tackle what you're trying to do, you can almost sort of prioritize them a little bit in terms of skill and will, in terms of your passion and ability. You can prioritize them in terms of what could you do with very little money, what can you do on a larger budget or with funding, or once you've been trading for a little while and you've got income behind you to do something on a bigger level. So thinking about what are the ideas and are they needed? You can then start to put these ideas into practice. Basically, that's what this prototyping and testing does. It really, once you've seen the problem, thought about why it's important, and more importantly, ask your community what is important, and what might some of the ideas best be to tackle what's going on for them. And you might be, lived experience, you might have lived experience of this thing. So you've got, a heads up on some of that. It's then looking at these different steps that you can put in place. And as it says, fail cheap and fail fast. This is what I was saying before about you have to just get going and give this a start. So find bite-sized ways to bring the idea to life where you can. Sometimes if you're developing an app, or you've got some product, something that's going to cost a lot just to get it prototyped, that can be a little bit more of a challenge. But quite often people are trying to tackle social challenges in their community, and that doesn't take oodles of angel investment to get that to happen. It's a few cups of coffee and some planning and hiring a room and getting some stuff started. And don't get me wrong, there's lots of different types of businesses and different sectors, but getting those focus groups, pulling the ideas in, shaping them up for what you might need them to be and testing them out really is what this loop's all about, and is often where, if you're running things in health and well-being, in education, in research and policy work, in food, in small batch production, product making, these things can be tested and trialed quite early on and quite quickly to give you a feel for, have I got the confidence to do this? Am I the right person to tackle this? What support and what skills do I need to further develop? Am I communicating clearly enough with my community of interest? And are they on board with this? Are they giving me feedback on what's going on? And is it helping? Are you seeing the steps of potential progress that you can take to develop and grow what it is you're doing? And that's really, it's taking the fear out of getting started, and it's taking the barriers away from giving things a go and thinking, I've got to find funding, I've got to this, I've got to have a business plan. There are simplistic ways of getting started that really does fuel your confidence, give you a network and a community that wants this stuff, and it will give you much more credibility when you're trying to go to, sell this stuff or go to funders or get something commissioned, because you're not just coming up with an idea out of your head. So I'm hoping that these tools that we've shared with you today have been helpful. I'm hoping that we've not put you off, and it's given you some routes to really get your ideas down, think them through a little clearer, and ways to sort of start to communicate and share these with other people. And these tools really, whether you're starting out or whether you've been running something for some time, can be adapted to a startup idea or a new service development idea. And we really hope that you start to give some of these things a go. I'm going to wrap this part of the webinar series up here with our details to follow up. So if you've got questions, thoughts or comments, by all means contact me directly. Flourish have various events throughout the year that people can look up and come along to, physical and virtual events. And obviously Sector 3, who've commissioned these websites, have a great website. These webinars, have a great website, have a team there who can answer queries and have different activities options and other support that they can offer. So do make good use of that. We'll be back shortly with the next webinar around legal structures and governance. So I will leave you to your problem trees and your thinking, and we'll look forward to talking all about governance with you in the next session.